thought I'd do a video today of some making, as some of you find it quite interesting to watch. But I thought I'd do it a bit different today. I read something earlier this week on Instagram, some small business crafter, and they were saying that they always speed up their videos for people to see, so it's in a short time frame. But actually they're not going to do that anymore because they want people to see the length of time the craft takes. And I thought that's very interesting because I always really speed up my videos because I think people have only got a few seconds to watch. But this time around I'm just going to do it in real time, and then I'm going to talk through as well because you might be interested in the making process and how we make things. So I'm making pinters, ceramic pinters for Father's Day. So these are pint glasses, which you all know what a pint glass looks like, but obviously I've got one in front of me because I'm kind of replicating this shape and size, and I'm hopefully going to do these as nice gift packs for Father's Day. What's today? 18th of April. So I'm pushing it quite a bit because I want to make about 50. So far over the past day, what am I on, about 28 or 29? So yeah, I've made quite a few. So this one I'm going to film, so I'm going to get going. So my clay is all weighed out and wedged. I had a few problems with my clay yesterday. It was really hard. My recycled clay was hard and the new clay was hard. I mix 50-50 when I make anything, and it was really playing up with my wrists because I was really putting my wrists under strain when I was making something. So last night I wired off slices of the clay and added water in and left it overnight, hopefully to make it a bit nicer to use, which it is, but it's gone the opposite way. It's too soft. So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm coning up and down, which you'll see me in a moment. I'm doing that a couple of times where I'd normally only do it once, just to settle the clay a little bit more because it's a little bit wet. Okay, so let's get going. Right. Clean off my wheel head here. I've got nice warm water, keep me nice and warm. Okay, let's get the clay on. So first thing I want to do is center the clay. So this is where we need the most strength and the most speed on the wheel. Centering the clay. There's no point in trying to make a shape unless the clay is dead center to the wheel. So how we center, it's a bit grit your teeth and hold on, which is what I'm doing now. And I'm really using these trays here to rest my arms down, so the pressure that I apply can be nice and even. Now I can feel this clay already being quite soft. Okay, so I'm going to start to cone it up now. So I'm going to get my hands either side, using the bones in the palm of my hand to steadily lift the clay up into a cone shape. I want this to happen steadily. I don't want this to happen all in one lift. I want to start to ease the clay out nice and gently. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing, okay? Slowly start to ease it up. And as I said, I'm going to do this twice. So I'm going to come a good way up. A little bit more. Now I'm going to push this down and bring it up again, just so the clay settles. So it's even, consistent. I've got no air bubbles. I can see one there already. Hopefully I'm going to force the air out. Just going to push it down again. And then now I'm going to bring it up into a cone once more. Get my hands round, get my hands underneath so it's not too flat, so I can get a good proportioned cone. So I'm making these pinters, but I can't replicate and copy the size of this glass at all because of shrinkage, and particularly because I'm using recycled clay that's got more moisture in it, so the shrinkage is even more than if I was just using new clay. So after creating many samples, I do have a size spec that I follow when I'm making, which takes into consideration, I think I'm about 17% shrinkage. So it's quite a lot. So you'll see these coming out a lot bigger. Well, I'll show you once I've made it up against the glass one so you can see how much bigger it is. Okay, so coned up for the second time. Now I'm going to push it down. So cone down. I'm going to wrap my hand right the way around. This arm's going to support the clay. I'm going to hold onto the clay nice and tight. This is like a robotic guard arm. And then with my right hand, I'm right-handed, I'm going to push the clay down. So both hands are working together, pushing the clay down and flattening out the top, getting my hand right in there, really pushing my left hand onto the wheel head so it doesn't go too pancake-like. And flattening out. Take away any wet, sludgy slurry that's around the edge. And now I'm going to make a hole in the middle. So hole in the middle, 2 index fingers. I'm just going to push vertically in. No, it's a bit off centre, hang on. I'm going to go back in, use a bit of strength. It's very slightly off centre, that's better. Now back to what I was doing. Push my fingers in, down. I'm not going to go all the way down because obviously I won't have a base. I'm going to create a base of my pinter. Put my fingers in. I'm going to aim for about 1 centimetre at the moment thickness. It's hard to tell, so I'm just going to go a good way down. Just compress with my fingers in there a little bit. Now I'm just going to see how thick it is. Needle in a cork, very technical tools here. Okay, so that's gone down to about there, a little bit less than a centimetre, that's fine, that's no problem. Right, so I'm happy with the base depth that I've got. Now I'm going to get the tips of my thumbs inside and I'm going to push the clay out, making the opening in the middle a bit wider. Holding steady and moving slow. Now I can really see it. So I've got a hole in the middle. Now I'm going to work on the base. I'm going to compress the base. This is my right index finger starting off at centre point, working out to 3 o'clock. Once I get to 3 o'clock, I'm just slowly working back to centre point. The rotation of the wheel does the rest. About 6 times I'm going to do this. This is really making the base of my pinter strong, nice and condensed. I'm compressing the components of the clay down so it doesn't separate or crack. This often happens if you don't compress the base after the first firing. It always comes out with a lovely S, always an S-shaped crack if the base of your clay isn't nice and compressed. Now I'm just taking my time, just working my finger. You'll see me holding my hand as well, and that's because my wrists are hurting a little bit. So I'm just trying to protect my wrists and repetitive strain, I suppose, if I'm on what, number 29. Okay, so compress the base. Now I'm going to cone it in a bit. I'm going to bring the rim in. When we lift the clay up, the clay is going to want to come out. So I want to make sure I'm going to counteract that movement of the clay wanting to come out because of the rotation of the wheel, by just bringing the rim of my shape in a little bit narrower than the base. Okay, right. So now I'm going to move on and do my first lift. I'm going to create a claw with my hand. I'm going to clamp on to the clay. Once I've clamped on, I'm going to slowly bring my hand up. I've got one hand inside, one hand outside. Slowly, steady. Slowly off at the top. I find the slower I am here, the more control I have and the more even the thickness of the wall is. If I rush it too much, it goes wrong. we've got a bit of height. And going again, more water. So even though the clay was really wet, it was hard clay to begin with, so there's parts of it that are hard. So it's not the best clay to throw with. Right, here I go again. I'm going to get in there, tuck my fingers under. I'm going to really get in, tuck my fingers under the bottom, push the bottom in a bit because the bottom's a bit wide, and clamp on with my fingers. And slowly. All the way to the top. Ooh. Just holding the rim there. If it's just come off center, it's a bit vulnerable where it's getting higher. Just going to bring that in for a moment. Obviously the further the clay comes outwards, the more vulnerable it becomes. So I want to keep it all in nice and tight. Okay, so that was the second lift. I know I'm going to have to do one more. The height I'm looking for here is I want about between 16.5 and 17 centimetres, which really is quite high, a lot higher than the pint glass. I'll show you that in a moment. So I'm going to go in again now, get my hands wet, got the clay wet, let's get my hand in. And tuck my finger in there. Let's get some of that clay up from the bottom. Use that, don't want to leave that down there. Hold and steady. You see it wobbled a bit there, it's come off centre, but if I just hold steady. All the way to the top. Right, let's see. No, 16. I have to go again. The pressure of talking and videoing means I've not done it in 3 lifts. It's no problem. I'm going to lift again. So I want about another centimetres worth of height in it. So I'm just going to get a bit more water. Inside and outside, just hold that. It's got a bit of a wobble on it at the moment. That's better. Right, let's go in again. Left hand in, right to the bottom. See if I can sort out where that's coming out there as well. So this is getting a bit more height, but really just firming up the straightness. There we are, come on, there you are. Holding on. You can see how high it's coming up. I think my apron's touching it as well, which isn't ideal. I should have that tucked out of the way. Okay, so hopefully I got about another centimetre there. I think we'll be all right. The rim's a bit thick, so I'm just going to lift that rim up and then that should give me a little bit more. Mini pinch. Taking a bit of weight out the top. Position my fingers so I'm just rounding inwards the rim. This bit here is really important because obviously this is the part that touches your lip. So you want it to be smooth, you don't want it to be too chunky. So I'm just taking my time just to curve that rim inwards. So when we take a sip or a gulp, it's comfortable. Yeah, that's okay, that's 17. Right then, so I'm going to work bottom now. I need to check that it's wider, the width is correct. Made it wider than what it needed to be, so I'm just going to tidy up the bottom here. And then just I'm wanting about an 8 centimetre diameter, which I've measured out on calipers. So I'm just going to see if those calipers, I haven't got to get them all the way in. Yeah, that would go in if I pushed it, so I'm happy with that. That's dried off a little bit, so I'm just going to make that wet. So now I'm just going to work on the sides. I'm going to use a nice long straight edge. I want the glass to come out a little bit at the top. So I mean, the base is 8 centimetres and my finishing diameter of the top is 9.5, so it does come out, but I'm just going to get a bit faster. Get this straight edge tool in here, get my finger down there. Taking off some of the slurry. Slowly lifting my finger up and off at the top. This is taking off some of the water that was all caught around the edge. A bit once more. There's something going on down here. It's just going in a little bit more at the bottom, which I don't like, so I'm just going to go in again, hold my tool firmly in place. There we are. I can see the light shining through. Push the clay out. Sorry, scraping. Slowly take my tool away. Yeah, that's better. So you can really start to see the shape of the pinter. See, that's fine. Just using a sponge now, just to soften that edge on the rim. I've got a mirror here so I can see what I'm doing, but you can't really see because if I showed you the mirror, it's just covered in splashes of clay, so it's not that useful. Right, so now I'm going to go in and do the little dimple. So it's tricky to know where to go. So I've got my guide. Hey, look, I'll rest that on there so you can see. You can see the difference, how much bigger it actually is. So now I'm going to attempt to do this bit. So I've never studied a pint glass so much. So I can see you've got about, you know, there it's about centimetres. So obviously this is bigger. So I want to leave that much at the top and then put this little dimple part in here. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to rest my finger about there. Let's do it around here so you can see a bit of water. Faster. This is where I tend to use the mirror. So I'm pushing my finger on the inside, pushing the clay out. While on the outside you can see my right finger supporting that top rim so that doesn't come out with it. It's quite subtle, it's not a big pinch. Okay, so now that is coming up quite nicely. Just gonna work on this. This top part comes out ever so slightly after it's had that dimple. I'm looking in the mirror now so I can get that right. I mean, there isn't a potter in the world that's done this. So where's the sponge gone now? Oh, there we go, it's in the bucket. Let's just hold the sponge there, round that off. Is it pronounced enough? Yeah, I think it is. I don't want it to come out too much. I don't want it to look like a big belly. Right, so we can see. Can't really see the glass. But now you can see. So I'm just going to have a bit of a look. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So, we're still not finished yet though. Obviously been working with a lot of water. It all collects in the bottom. Got a bit of a swimming pool in there. So I'm just going to use a very handy sponge on a stick. I need to get all of the water out the bottom. I don't want any water in the bottom. That will saturate through and separate the clay if I left that. So that's out. Now let's check the rim. So if I got the proportions right, I'm looking at about 9.5 centimetres I want inside here. Yeah, it's about 2 mil under 9.5, that's okay. I like a bit of variance, I don't like everything to be the same. And then now I'm just going to do a really, really small undercut. Right where I'm going to go in with the wire in the moment and take it off. Just create a little tiny channel. Normally I have quite a big undercut with my things, but on these obviously it's a shape I'm copying, so I don't want it to go too much under. So there we go, but not finished yet. 21 minutes, that's quite long. I'm going to spend a few minutes just drying it off with a heat gun to start it on its way for drying, and then it's just a little bit easier for me to lift off the wheel so I don't distort it. I can do it wet, but I want them to dry it pretty quickly anyway, so this just helps. So I'm going to spend about a minute just drying it off, and then I'll wire through the bottom, and then I'll lift it off and put it onto the back and move the back, and then I'll show you the back with the others on. Okay. So this will need to sit and dry. It's taking about 7 days at the moment, so it's still not very warm. And then it will go in the kiln for the first fire and the bisque fire, 1000 degrees. And then when it comes out, I'll decide how I'm going to glaze, what colours I'm going to use, glaze it, and then it will go back in the kiln again for a glaze fire. Glaze fire is 1240 degrees for me. And then I'll get my final pinter. I don't have any here, they're all sold. Whenever I make them, they always sell. But they're great. You can put these in the freezer and cool them down before you put your drink in. Absolutely fine in the dishwasher, microwave, oven. We use stoneware. Stoneware's great. Very durable. So these are going to be on sale as Father's Day gifts. And as I said, I'm hoping to do them in a gift box. And possibly with a beer as well. That's my aim. That should be enough. This takes off a bit of the wetness. Put that heat gun down safely. It's the best heat gun ever. It goes up to 600 degrees. I tried to dry my hair with it though. Right, wire right the way through, nice and quick. Dry hands, tilt forwards, lift up, pop onto the back so I don't distort it. And then here, I'll show you. So that's this morning's work. I can't do the same again this afternoon. Thanks if you watched to the end. Thank you.